So one of the things that every astronaut talks about when they get back to space is what it's like to see Earth from space. They talk about what it's like to live in a world where we're more interconnected and dependent on one another than ever before. They talk about what it's like to live in a world where the boundaries disappear and our problems overlap and the solutions are not one nation's alone. And the thing they don't talk about being lonely. They don't talk about being disconnected from the rest of us. Rather, they talk about being connected to all of us. Imagine if you were able to see this orbital perspective with your own eyes. Imagine if you were able to see the whole world in one moment, just like Ron Garan, pictured here on the International Space Station. Imagine how it might change your perspective, how it might shift your approach to the problems you're working on, or it might actually change the importance of the problems that you are working on right now. Only about 500 people have ever had a chance to experience the orbital perspective with their own eyes. The most recent, of course, being Felix Baumgartner, who had an opportunity to jump from space back to Earth. It was incredible. And thanks to technology, the rest of us are just starting to experience this as well. We live in a world where 8 million people can watch Felix Baumgartner jump from the edge of space together online at the exact same time. We live in a world where we can take a picture on Mars and then stream it to your mobile device just moments later. So what I want to talk to you today about is what it's like to live in this interconnected world, to have this orbital perspective, and how technology is shifting the way we look at our problems and the grand challenges of our time. So like so many others in my generation, I wanted to work at NASA. I wanted to be the guy who flew in space. I didn't want to just develop the technology. I actually wanted to be the guy driving the spaceship. But the problem that I had was that I grew up in North Dakota, pretty much as far away from a NASA center as you can be in America, in a town of 100 people, and I had no connection to NASA. I didn't know anyone who had worked at NASA. I didn't know any astronauts. I didn't know any engineers. I didn't know any rocket scientists. No one in my family had ever attended college, and I was really destined to be an auto mechanic or a farmer. And the odds of something else happening were really pretty slim to none, but thankfully, I had a teacher in kindergarten who was equally inspired by space exploration as I was and invited the rest of us to watch an upcoming space shuttle mission with her live on national TV. You may remember that day. That was the day that tragedy struck the crew of the Challenger. And although I didn't realize it at the time, it was also a day that changed the trajectory of my own life. This is the day that I got connected to something bigger. It's the day that I realized I wanted to work on this, being part of the solution to the grand challenges of our time, the ones that required the collective vision of us all, like space exploration. And at the time, the only way I knew how to do that, the only way I knew how to participate in that was to work at NASA. So that's what I set out to do. I wanted to be NASA's Mohawk guy. And if you think about it, it wasn't really that long ago when the vast majority of people on planet Earth thought it was impossible to land a man on the moon or land a robot the size of a car on Mars with retro rockets and a sky crane. It's incredible. And so NASA's working on the things today that people just 50 years ago thought were impossible. They would have thought you were crazy to even suggest it. And so this is the type of NASA I wanted to work for. I wanted to be at NASA that was forward-leaning, on the cutting edge of technology, and empowered to tackle the seemingly impossible challenges that intimidated most others. And so years later, I had an opportunity to work at NASA. And just between you and me, I couldn't believe that they were actually going to let me be in the same room as their elite astronauts or their coveted, brilliant rocket scientists. And so not to be one to miss an opportunity, I packed myself up, drove as fast as I could across country, 2,000 miles, and showed up months before anyone had a useful work assignment for me. And I was ready and waiting. I wanted to be put in the game. I wanted to help contribute to those impossible challenges. But ironically, just 1 month after I started at NASA full-time, Space Shuttle Columbia broke up over the Texas skies. And so I spent my first few months walking around the fields of East Texas, picking up the broken dreams of our nation, and thinking about how we got in this situation, and thinking about how risky and unforgiving space exploration can be. Something else I noticed while I was in East Texas was all the other people that were there. There were thousands of people helping with NASA to clean up the remains of the shuttle. There were people like forest rangers and firefighters, the real heroes of our nation. People who drove all the way across the country to participate in what we were doing. These are people who would have dropped everything they had to have an opportunity to work at NASA like I did. And they never had that opportunity, so they saw this as their chance to contribute to what we were doing. So they gave everything they had, their time, their talent, their resources to participate. And it was really the largest mass collaboration I'd seen at the time, and really a testament to what people can do if given the proper resources and permission to work together. And it wasn't the first time, it wasn't the last time that I actually had a chance to witness this type of willingness by people to participate in what NASA is doing. Over the next couple of years, I did quite a bit of public outreach. I spoke in schools. I spoke pretty much anywhere that anybody would let me tell them about the benefits of space exploration. The one thing I noticed is that people around the world were willing to contribute to NASA. They wanted an opportunity to do that. But the thing was, we just weren't set up well to do that. I realized over the next couple of years of my career that many of the assumptions that we had as a government about how to engage citizens in space exploration were wrong. Or at least wrong given the changing environment. And it was true that citizens wanted to participate, but they wanted to do so as they become more and more technologically literate on their terms, using common technology, and with a purpose much bigger than space exploration. They wanted to not only read about the Mars Curiosity rover, they wanted to drive it while sipping coffee in their pajamas somewhere in Idaho and thinking about how this might actually contribute to something locally relevant to them. See, government has always supposed to have been participatory. Thomas Jefferson talked about the type of government he envisioned in a letter he wrote in 1816, a government where every man feels that he's a participator in the government of affairs, not merely on election day, one day a year, but every day. Thomas Jefferson talks about what government in America has always been, participatory, but somewhere along the lines of history, government became something else, something closed and far from participatory. And understandably, this is leading people around the world today to demand more openness in government. You're seeking new ways to participate in what we're doing. You're demanding responsiveness from government. You're demanding effectiveness from government. And this is something that has been going on for a long time. We should be working together on figuring out ways to make government more participatory, to bring it back to its roots, democratic and participatory like it was meant to be. But admittedly, this is hard for government. This is not something that government is set up well to do. But thankfully, this is changing. Thanks to technology, there are new ways to participate. You don't no longer have to show up on election day to vote. Not the only things to do to participate in government is showing up on election day to vote or writing your congressman and hoping for a response back in 6 months, or protesting about whatever it is your favorite cause is, or in my case, taking a job in government to actually be able to make a difference. Technology, for the first time in history, is allowing for new ways to participate in what we're doing. And you've heard talk after talk after talk today at TED, online, about how the world's changing, about how the environment around us is changing, about how business has already changed to adopt to this changing environment. Technology is opening the doors so that through collaboration, people like you, people who fundamentally care about the future of our cities, of our communities, of our government, of our nation, and of our world, have an opportunity to actually participate in that. You have an opportunity for the first time to actually contribute to solving the grand challenges of our time, the ones that require not only government participation, but participation by you, like our forefathers intended. And so, this is something that shouldn't be difficult. Connecting people to government shouldn't be hard. It's not rocket science. The formula is really pretty simple. The more people we engage in government, the better chance we ever have in actually having a government that lives up to these challenges. And here's the key. It's just not about individual participation. It's about mass collaboration. It's about finding platforms that allow us to scale participation in ways that have never been done before, ways that we could not have imagined just a couple years ago. Mass collaboration is something that's particularly possible today because of our place in history as a civilization and the internet and technology. And it's mass collaboration that's possible thanks to technology that allows us to scale the creation and aggregation of ideas that used to take place behind closed doors in large institutions. And there's so many examples of mass collaboration today. If masses can peer produce an operating system, write an encyclopedia, or the Icelandic constitution, one should carefully consider what comes next for us. So that's what I have an opportunity to do. I'm thinking through what comes next for us. And I work at NASA with a team that is highly capable, a team that is very smart and has the opportunity to experiment with how to apply the benefits of mass collaboration in government. And our goal is not just to develop new technology or solve our grand challenges, but to fundamentally change how government works by including as many of you as possible in developing solutions. So realizing that NASA didn't really have a way to do this, we set out to create one. In April 2012, we planned and then implemented the largest government-led mass collaboration today. It was called the International Space Apps Challenge. And this was an event that took place over 48 hours. And our goal was simply to connect people together and aggregate their contributions in a useful way so that we could further space exploration in a way that was useful. And it was a huge experiment. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. And fortunately, the results were impressive. They were overwhelming. Over 48 hours, people from 25 cities around the world, all 7 continents and in space, came together and developed over 100 solutions that were directly applicable to what we were doing within government. It was incredible. And what was more impressive to me than the solutions that were developed was our ability to actually scale mass collaboration in a way that has never been done before. And the event demonstrated to even the most skeptical within NASA that thanks to technology, this can actually be done today. It showed us that thanks to technology, citizens don't even need an organization to organize anymore. You can organize simply by being online. Some of our best solutions were those that were contributed by people not even showing up to one of our locations. One of my favorite stories is of this guy, Sam Wilkinson. You know, this picture is fantastic because he sent it to me yesterday. Sam lives in the UK, and he's a student. He's 16 years old. He wants to go to MIT. MIT, you should probably let this guy in your doors. See, Sam was really interested in connecting to NASA, and this was his opportunity to do so. So he showed up to the event, and what he wanted to do in just 4 hours was see if he could help astronauts in space connect with home through the thing that we all love, food. So we have food in space, thankfully, but we don't have fresh food in space. It's kind of hard to get it there. So what Sam did was he set out to create a new way to create fresh bread in space. And by applying his classroom knowledge in chemistry, he developed a process for us to do that, something novel that we had not thought of before. And it was something that really demonstrated what can happen when you, without precondition, engage as many people as possible in helping solve your challenges. And thankfully, for inspired kids everywhere, like Sam, or like this guy, we don't lack grand challenges today, far from it. 1 billion people want access to electricity. Millions of people need clean water. The climate's changing. Traffic is crazy. If you've been outside, you know what I'm talking about. Cancer might take us all if we live long enough, and we still don't have flying cars or a colony on Mars. How is that possible? What would you do? What would it look like if you could participate in solving some of these grand challenges through mass collaboration? That's what we're really interested in. So I want to end my talk today by giving you a concrete way to actually participate. I want to give you a chance to be NASA's Mohawk guy, to be the guy deep in the heart of mission control, solving challenges that are relevant to you and your community and the world around you. So NASA's partnering with a number of organizations around the world to plan something we're calling the National Day of Civic Hacking. And the event is something that we envision happening in all 50 states, in cities around the nation. And the idea is simply this. Let's come out of our houses. Let's come out of our cubicles. Let's work together to solve challenges that are relevant to our communities and the governments that serve them. And so this is something that is really exciting. I really encourage you to check it out. It's really easy to get involved. You can go to hackforchange.org. We already have a number of cities that are already participating in this. And we're hoping for participation from Seattle to Honolulu, from Washington, D.C. to Houston, Texas. And it's an opportunity for you to connect with others, to see the world from this orbital perspective, and to make a difference. Not only just one day, but maybe for the rest of your lives. This is an opportunity that I hope you will really consider. So when I think about the orbital perspective, when I see Earth from space, thanks to technology, because I haven't been there yet, what resonates with me is that government should be doing the things that are bold. They should be doing the things that are risky, the things that nobody else will do because it's intimidating, like when we landed on the moon or when we landed on Mars. We should be doing the things that inspire not only our nation, but inspire the world. But here's the thing. I believe we can't do this alone. We must enlist anyone with a passion for solving the grand challenges of our time, for creative people all over the world who are demanding a chance to participate in what we're doing. I believe that this is the future of our nation, that NASA's true potential, any organization's true potential is only limited by the imagination that you're lacking. It's the imagination, it's the possibilities that we have today that are limited by our imagination and our will to act. And so I encourage you to get started. I encourage you to join me and help contribute to solving the grand challenges of our time. Thank you.